You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There's a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for January 6th, 2023. It's not safe for work.
Recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where we note that 2 years after a mob of brainwashed Republican insurrectionists stormed the Capitol, they finally succeeded in seizing the House of Representatives, and it's going exactly as well as you might expect. It's The Professional Left with Driftglass and Blue Gal.
I loved your tweet today, Driftglass. Why won't Obama lead?
Yeah, that's the title of our show today. Why won't Obama lead? Why won't Obama step up and do the right thing and have a drink with Mitch McConnell and sort all this out?
We're just waiting to figure out how the media finds a way to blame Democrats for this.
Oh, yeah. Well, they already are. I mean, if you flip on Fox News, they already are.
Yeah.
I mean, they're oscillating between the two worst choices in the world, which is cooperate with Democrats and give up Hunter Biden laptop hearings.
Yeah.
And using the debt ceiling as an atomic bomb.
They won't be able to defund the FBI, Driftglass.
Right. And that's what the constituents want. That's what they want. And I was watching literally moments ago Byron York just shitting himself trying to explain, well, it was one that is very, very bad because you'd have to cooperate with Democrats, and we want to investigate Hunter Biden's laptop.
Hunter Biden's laptop.
If we don't, they'll come to my house and burn my dog. So, you can tell these people are just fucking terrified of the monster they created and have no way to figure out, they have no clue as to how to stop them. And dude, it's the same playbook you assholes ran on Barack Obama for 8 fucking years, and you loved it then. It was the height, and this is all Donald Trump shit, and you loved it then. These are the same people acting the same way. But now, oh my God, what if we, endanger the integrity and reputation of the House of Representatives by behaving like Republicans have always behaved? Amazing.
We want to point everybody over to our first Tuesday show of the new year. I loved your tweet today, Driftglass.
Yes.
Why won't Obama lead?
Yeah, that's the title of our show today. Why won't Obama lead? Why won't Obama step up and do the right thing and have a drink with Mitch McConnell and sort all this out?
We're just waiting to figure out how the media finds a way to blame Democrats for this.
Oh, yeah. Well, they already are. I mean, if you flip on Fox News, they already are.
Yeah.
I mean, they're oscillating between the two worst choices in the world, which is cooperate with Democrats and give up Hunter Biden laptop hearings.
Yeah.
And using the debt ceiling as an atomic bomb, or just voting forever.
They won't be able to defund the FBI, Driftglass.
Right. And that's what the constituents want. That's what they want. And I was watching literally moments ago Byron York just shitting himself trying to explain, well, it was one that is very, very bad because you'd have to cooperate with Democrats, and we want to investigate Hunter Biden's laptop.
Hunter Biden's laptop.
If we don't, they'll come to my house and burn my dog. So, you can tell these people are just fucking terrified of the monster they created and have no way to figure out, they have no clue as to how to stop them. And dude, it's the same playbook you assholes ran on Barack Obama for 8 fucking years, and you loved it then. It was the height, and this is all Donald Trump shit, and you loved it then. These are the same people acting the same way. But now, oh my God, what if we, endanger the integrity and reputation of the House of Representatives by behaving like Republicans have always behaved? Amazing.
We want to point everybody over to our Tuesday show. We now have our first show of No Fair Remembering stuff up. It is a doozy. I will tell you. We came right out of the gate strong with a Joe Scarborough episode.
Yes, we did.
And there's a lot of audio clips of Joe Scarborough in this show. In fact, we had a letter from a listener saying, I had to turn it off because my blood pressure just couldn't take all that Joe Scarborough.
Yeah.
And we understand that. It was hard to edit it. It was hard to make it. But I think it's extremely important that we have a historical record because it appears to me, and I hate to make charges like this because, apart from my own brain, I don't have evidence of this. So take all of this with a grain of salt that this is my opinion. But my opinion is that Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski or someone on their behalf has scrubbed the internet.
It does appear that way.
It appears that way.
And
there was an interview with Joe Scarborough, and I can't remember, I'm sorry, whether it was at Vanity Fair or Esquire or wherever it was, but it was 2014, 2015, him doing an interview at Mar-a-Lago where he was spending Christmas with his kids. Mm-hmm. This was before Trump came down the escalator. And there was another article that I distinctly remember of Mika Brzezinski emceeing a Trump Foundation fashion show. And we cannot find these things on the internet anymore.
So it's either...
So we just can't.
The Mandela effect, or
who knows?
You just can't find them. But
we can't find
good stuff in there. There's lots and lots of information about the context, about, Joe Scarborough starting off in the 90s as one of the new Federalists, which were basically the Tea Party before there was a Tea Party, and how he's always been this kind of, ex-jock, loud, bullying asshole. And that's how he's gotten everything he's ever gotten. And he's never changed, except for the fact that he constantly uses his privileged position, his virtual co-ownership of MSNBC, based on how much clout he has, to just rewrite his past whenever he wants to. And anybody who disagrees with him, he screams at him and cuts them off. And they don't get to be on his show no more.
Right.
And that's sort of the brutal version of what the media does generally, which is just, all the shit we said a couple of months ago turned out to be complete lies and bullshit. We're just not going to talk about that anymore, mention it anymore, and pretend it never happened.
And apparently we're going to scrub the internet, or someone is going to scrub the internet of things that we don't want people to talk about. Yeah. And so next week we're going to talk about a thing called the American Independent Party. Mm-hmm. And you might want to Google that.
Yeah, look that up. That should be very interesting, because you lived in the shadow of the remnants of the American Independent Party for a number of years. Mm-hmm.
I did, for a long time, over a decade.
Yeah.
We know that there's only one story that the mainstream media is talking about at all today, and that is we are now, at this recording, we're at vote 8 against Kevin McCarthy for Speaker of the House.
I thought you meant Tara Lipinski's new show.
Tara Lipinski's new show on weddings.
Yeah. I thought, okay, you caught me blind there,
figure skater likes to watch weddings. We just know about that because we watch Crackle. We watch Secret Agent, Danger Man on Crackle.
Man, baby.
They always are advertising the Tara Lipinski show. Yeah. But no. Where was I, Driftglass? Oh,
the one show.
Vote 8. Vote 8 has happened.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, but we have some other things we want to talk about. And first of all, I want to express how grateful I am that we have a Democrat in the White House.
Yes. Yep.
And what a difference that makes. As a result of a Democrat in the White House, Joe Biden, who, by the way, has hired a lot of people that Elizabeth Warren. That's it.
I've heard of her. I remember her. I think I voted for her.
She put people on a list, and she has populated a good portion of the Biden White House with people that agree with her about things and that are very competent. And that has turned out to be a very good thing for a progressive White House to do.
So it's true. The squad is pulling Joe Biden's strings.
Squad. Anyway, one of the things that the Biden administration and the Justice Department this week did is they made a ruling that loosens up the ability of people to receive abortion pills by mail and by UPS. And the deal, as I understand it, is you can ship abortion pills to anyone as long as you have no knowledge that they're going to use the pills in an illegal way. The Justice Department isn't going to prosecute anybody for mailing pills anywhere. And so the thing you do is you just mail them to a man.
Right.
Or to an old lady like me. I was explaining to youngest child today, it's like, mail me 50, doses of the 2 abortion pills you need to eliminate early pregnancy. I'm not going to get an abortion. I'm too old for that. So clearly I'm not the person who's going to use them. I can have them in my closet, right?
For those of you who of a certain age who used to go to the local head shop / record shop to buy bongs and hookahs and paper, it's the same rule, which is you're going to use this just for tobacco, right? Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I smoke my tobacco from a hookah. I would never. You're not going to use this for some illegal purpose, are you? Of course I. No,
I like the shape of the leaf on my poster. I don't.
Yes.
It's just for decoration.
Yeah, same thing. It's literally a fig leaf. So
yeah. So that's one thing. UPS can ship abortion pills, as you said in our notes, will now be available in Gilead states.
Yeah.
Also, the FDA has ruled that abortion pills can now be offered at retail pharmacies. The FDA expanded access to the abortion pill mifepristone, I'm not saying that right, allowing brick and mortar and mail-order pharmacies to stock and dispense the drug. For decades, this drug could only be dispensed by a few mail-order pharmacies and specialty offices and clinics. Under the new policy, patients will still need a prescription, but now any pharmacy that agrees to accept those prescriptions and become a certified provider can dispense the pills in its stores and by mail order, depending on their state's laws. And as we say, with the mail order issue now getting resolved in large part, things are going to be a little easier. And we still want to codify Roe.
Yes. And if anybody asks you, you're taking it along with ivermectin to prevent
COVID. There you go. You know, it's a COVID treatment. You know how it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to talk about someone else from the past?
Yes.
If we're going to do a No Fair Remembering stuff on this guy, it's going to be another David Brooks 5 episode thing, I think.
Yeah, he dates back to the earliest days of ugly, horrible behavior, and he never dies. He never goes away. He is always resurrected, and you know who I'm talking about, boys and girls. It's Newt fucking Gingrich.
Newt fucking Gingrich.
Newt Gingrich, who surfaced today, crawled out of his cave to complain about the bomb-throwing disruptors of the House of Representatives, which is, I swear to God, the third funniest thing in this whole mess that I heard this week. This is the quote from Newt Gingrich that I transcribed for your edification. I can't quite do his voice, but I'll try. So this is a fight between a handful of people and the entire rest of the conference. And they're saying they have the right to screw up everything. Well, the precedent that sets is, so do moderates. And so do the members of Florida. I mean, any 5 people can get up and say, well, I'm now going to screw up the conference too. The choice is Kevin McCarthy or chaos. And I think it's a remarkably short-sighted and candidly selfish position. And I don't understand where they're coming from.
They learned it from you, Newt.
Oh my God. Newt fucking Gingrich. The OG bomb thrower, let's burn it down, shut the government down, disrupt everything, impeach Bill Clinton, asshole, who started the ball rolling downhill faster than it had been already rolling, has the gall to stand up because he knows he can go on Fox and say this shit. And no one's going to, hold up a poster of him from 10 years ago and 20 years ago and say, is this you? Is this you burning the government down? Remember when you decided to disrupt everything because you're a petty, vindictive asshole? Remember that? Well, okay, that's funny. The second funniest thing this week is this quote by guess who? And I can't do their voice, so I'm just going to read the quote to you.
Just read it, yeah.
The toxic Gingrich destroyed America's political culture and instigated 25 years of nihilistic partisanship that has profoundly damaged the United States. Now, he seems utterly perplexed around what's happening. He seems confused. He declared that those opposing McCarthy have no moral right to do so, which is nearly as ludicrous as Newt Gingrich talking about morals. That is Steve Schmidt.
Steve Schmidt of the McCain campaign? Steve
Schmidt of the Sarah Palin, the McCain campaign. Steve Schmidt, longtime Republican mercenary. Steve Schmidt, who suddenly discovered that Donald Trump was too much and said, we got to get no, can't do it. Then Howard Schultz waved a bunch of money under his nose and he dumped them. Then he burned his own podcast down. Now he's attacking the Lincoln Project. Steve Schmidt, who has no sort of compass or moral center at all, but who keeps getting dragged back onto MSNBC because he's pals with Nicole Wallace. Yeah, that's Steve Schmidt. And I got to wonder, Steve, what have you been doing the past quarter century that now in retrospect you realize Newt Gingrich is a horrible person and the Republican Party is a shithole? didn't they pay for your house, dude? Didn't that lovely ranch you have in Colorado or Utah or Montana, all the good things in life were made possible for you, Steve Schmidt, by people like Newt Gingrich. So I'm sorry if you want to give it all back. I'll accept your apology now. But I don't see you giving up your Sub-Zero freezer because you suddenly figured out the Republican Party that you worked for your entire life is full of Republicans. So way to go. But the funniest thing of all of these things, because I have a very twisted sense of humor.
And this is something that Driftglass pulled me into the bedroom and said, just listen to this.
Yeah. This is...
he knows I don't want to listen to too much of the Bulwark.
No, nobody does. No one in the right mind.
But really, you should listen to just this segment. So I did. And I was astounded.
Yeah. The funniest thing was Tom Nichols, a lifelong rock-ribbed Republican who quit the Republican Party in 2017, and Charlie Sykes, who, as you all know, was a Rush Limbaugh of Wisconsin, suddenly discovered the Republican Party was full of Republicans around 2016. They ran him out of the place. And now he's explaining how liberals really caused this. Liberals really did this. Liberals made them racist. And you know what? They're first of all, they're mocking Newt Gingrich, and so good for them. And they're both looking at each other going, wow, Newt Gingrich said this? Why, this has been going on for decades. And Newt Gingrich is suddenly pretending to be so innocent he didn't know about it. I'm like, honey, did you hear them say the word decades in there?
Yeah.
Decades, as if they fucking well knew what was going on in their party, the party.
It was the first time I've ever heard them talk about a year before 2015.
Yeah, no, because nothing existed before then, except Ronald Reagan and St. Bill Buckley. And that was it. And then a bunch of yada, yada, yada. No one knows what happens. And then Trump came along and ruined everything. But the part that really made me laugh out loud was they got onto the subject of memory and history and like rolling their eyes saying, all these people who are doing this shit now, it's like they have no memory, like there's no history, like the past never happened, and they have no responsibility for any of it. Oh my God, Tom, can you believe these assholes? I know, Charlie, pretending the past never happened. And when you call them on it, they just look at you like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, yeah, goddamn, man, this is why I'm never going to be on the fucking Bulwark, because I'd be sitting there just watching this tennis match between these two hacks going, you know who else said that sort of thing?
The professional left's been saying that for 13 years.
Yeah, well, and we've been thinking it since the 90s. So it just kind of floors me. And my only response was, look, if you guys are going to steal directly from us.
From us, yes.
Just first, we're going to call you out on it and nobody will care because we're not blue checks and we don't have gigs on MSNBC. That's fine. But either pay us a flat fee or promote our podcast.
They owe you $5, Driftglass.
A flat dollar amount every time you rip off a liberal and pretend that you invented this thought just now. Tom Nichols, who is the most condescending person you can. He just, oh God, he really gives Scarborough a run for his money when he explains in little words to liberals how politics works. But it made me laugh because these guys really are, because I've said this before, form follows function. And they have to get mad at the people who used to be their party. And the way they get mad at them is by noting what they are doing. And what they are doing is exactly what they themselves have been doing. It's the business model that built the Bulwark. And I'm just sitting there just laughing, going, Jesus Christ, guys. I hope when you get to Heaven's Gate, I hope when you arrive in heaven, St. Peter has the same ability to pretend the past didn't happen as you do.
You'll be sitting in purgatory with a beer, Driftglass.
Yeah, I know.
Waiting for him.
Good company. I'm very good company. I put my feet up and have a beer and say, welcome to hell, boys. How's it going? I know why I'm here. Do you know why you're here?
I'm worried, Driftglass.
Uh-huh.
I'm worried because even though we're waiting for the speaker and all these House members haven't been sworn in yet, I'm worried that Adam Kinzinger is unemployed.
Yeah,
now.
Don't worry about that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't worry about that. Yeah, 11 seconds after the previous Congress closed, he was hired by CNN.
As everyone could have predicted.
Senior political analyst Adam Kinzinger is now going to be a member of CNN, the CNN spokesperson. And I can tell you, I can map out for you beat by beat, week by week, month by month, what he will say, what he will think.
I
what
was going to
opinions
say
he'll
they
have.
should pay you $1 every time he says both sides.
Yeah, no,
You'd be a millionaire in 4 years.
Well, you know what I should do?
What?
Since I do a little voice work on the side, if I could just get his accent down correctly, I could do the additional dialogue as Adam Kinzinger.
You could.
When the audio is screwed up or when they want him to say something that he didn't actually say.
And what would you say if you were Adam Kinzinger on CNN?
Oh, I'd just say both sides over and over again. And why won't Obama lead? Oh, did I say Obama? I meant Biden. I'm sorry, I meant Biden. And, and boy, I knew Kevin McCarthy, and I used to consider him a friend, but suddenly he just ripped off his mask and he's just a totally different person. And I don't know what happened. And I don't know what happened to literally every other human being in the Republican Party I've ever known. They have all changed. I haven't changed. They all miraculously overnight changed into something else. And by the way, do I get paid in advance, or is this a cash thing, or do I get a car? Do you fly me places? Because Illinois kind of sucks. I don't have a job there. So maybe you could give me like a hotel at a flat rate. That'd be great if you could do that. Yeah.
All right, Drift Glass.
Yeah.
Let's get on to Kevin McCarthy. But first, I'm going to read something to you. I'm going to do the whole David Brooks on the NewsHour thing.
Okay.
Where I'm going to read you something you wrote.
Mm.
And I'm going to ask you if you agree with it.
Oh, man. This Drift Glass asshole. Sure, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. This is something Drift Glass wrote. Now that the Republican Party is dead and the neo-know-nothings have taken over, it should come as no surprise that the party's intellectual elite, flatworms whose claim on power consists of being knee-walking drunk enough on cherry-picked scripture, Alex Jones, and Randite Poteen to appeal to the great wad of cow-dumb bigots who make up the party base, cannot hold their shit together long enough to arrange their own funeral. At this moment, it looks distinctly possible that the neo-know-nothings could install some stiff, pulled at random, from the queue outside the House men's room as second in line to the White House, because he has good hair, hasn't pissed off Rush Limbaugh's corpse, and hasn't been caught fucking the babysitter recently. Do you agree with that, Drift Glass?
I agree with it. I agree with it 100%. I think it was a little, the prose was a tad purple. Whoever wrote this went a little overboard with the eloquence. I admire the beats, but really just a little too much.
He's a little strident.
A little strident.
Drift Glass wrote that in 2015.
Yes, I did.
7 years ago.
On the occasion of Kevin McCarthy dropping out of the House Speaker race, which is something that maybe you don't remember happened, but it really did happen. Yeah. This is why we watch Danger Man, because everything is reruns. So why not watch the good reruns? Grab your mouse, go to any random podcast we've done. We've done 680 of them now, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Click on anyone you want.
We're on. We didn't count the No Fair Remembering Stuff practice episodes as actual numbered episodes. So.
No, I think that's fair. But we've done nearly 700 podcasts, or a little over, between you and I, and Science Fiction University.
We've had, since 2010, we've had over 6 million downloads.
Yeah.
I looked that up today. That's just amazing.
Well, prior to her passing, half those were my mom, just to be fair.
That's true, your mom.
Just to be fair. But this is how they are. This is not a new or surprising thing. Watching these TV heads, trying to game out what's going to happen next. It's like, well, you know what's going to happen next. They're either going to vote for someone who is a gelded version of Kevin McCarthy, or they're going to vote for Kevin McCarthy and just cut his balls off on the floor and tack them to the wall.
Yeah.
Or they're going to cut some deal with some Democrats and they'll get someone else in, and then everyone will lose their shit because we're not going to have hearings on Hunter Biden's laptop, but you promised me we would. They built a doomsday machine with no off switch, and now it's running live on television, and you can see what it is. And
the pirates, as you call them, are getting
pirates.
Everything they want. They're getting unlimited airtime. Can we talk for a minute about the fact that Lauren Boebert was on MSNBC last night?
Oh, I don't even want
to. MSNBC is not your friend, folks.
It made people fondly remember Brian Williams, which made me mad.
Which is bad.
Brian Williams was not your friend. He's not a good. I know he has a nice sense of humor and dry, laconic way, but he was a terrible host and brought lots of terrible people on. I mean, he was one of the major rehabbers of Bill Kristol's
Absolutely. Yeah.
career. And I just, and he shouldn't be there. I mean, the reason he fell from grace was a good one. He kept lying about his past and then kept exaggerating the lies. He wasn't as bad as George Santos, but, he was up there.
Nobody's as bad as George Santos except Donald Trump.
But this, the continual ratcheting right of the party and the continual scrambling along behind this party that's gone off a cliff and is now just plunging out of control by the media, trying to find some midpoint where they can say, well, why won't Obama lead? Why won't Biden fix this? Why Democrats need to take some part of the responsibility
I'm
here.
so grateful that Hakeem Jeffries has not taken the bait on that.
No.
Came to a microphone and said, it is not our job to fix Republican dysfunction.
Yeah.
It's not.
I would like him to, I will, it's not going to happen, but go knock on every door of every never Trumper, every centrist, every bulwark employee, and repeat after me, it is not my job to fix your fucked up party. Right. That was your job. You failed at your job.
And Driftglass, I think we're missing the bright, glowing orb in all of this, which is money.
Yeah, a lot of money.
There's a lot of money. You know that Lauren Boebert is texting her entire list saying, send me money. We got the gun detectors out of the house. You need to send me money. Mm-hmm. We're fighting the good fight against Kevin McCarthy. Send me money.
Sure.
And she's raising money off of this. Look, I told MSNBC where to get off. I went and fought in the lion's den. Send me money.
Yeah.
And there's so much money. This is, I've said this before. There's a reason why Donald Trump is the first Republican president under Citizens United. It's a scam. And this holding up Kevin McCarthy is a scam. It's to raise money. And then Kevin McCarthy last night adjourned so that he could go make deals. And he brings in the Club for Growth as part of the negotiating team.
Yeah, because they're the ones who run. Stop listening to this podcast right now and go read The Space Merchants.
It's a good book.
By Paul and Kornbluth from 1950-something, which is about what happens when big money advertisers and corporations literally take over the government and each congressman or senator is from some company.
Yep.
That's what they're doing. And you're right. There is just so much money.
And the negotiating strategy is you will not oppose any sitting congressman in a primary ever. Mm-hmm. And they're asking to give marching orders to the Club for Growth because it's about money. It's about Marjorie Taylor Greene buying a $93,000 SUV with campaign money.
Yeah.
It's about living at hotels, high-end hotels and eating high-end meals on Social Security recipients' money, donations. The number one industry donating to Lauren Boebert is retired. It's a scam.
Well,
and the fact that the House of Representatives under Democrats, passes 240 bills in one session, lowers the cost of insulin for senior citizens.
Yeah.
And then we get this shit show. Both sides are not the same.
No. Jesus, how many decades have we been saying? The center is the problem. The center is the problem. The people who hide out in the center and blame both sides are the fucking problem. Take out the center and the right will collapse. The left will be fine. We have a gargantuan tent on the Democratic side, and every single one of them are lining up vote after vote to vote for Hakeem Jeffries again and again and again and applaud every time. They're doing policy. They're doing politics. They're behaving like grown-ups. They're acting like...
and I think the understanding, too, this is really important. I often, and it makes me lose my mind, actually, to hear it on social media, where someone will say, Elizabeth Warren should be majority leader in the Senate. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez should be Speaker of the House. No. Those positions, like Speaker of the House, like majority leader, like minority leader, are jobs. They are jobs with duties. And you want to hire somebody who can do the job. And that job, Chuck Schumer, for instance, his job is to schedule votes, appoint committees, be on the phone all the time with administrative bullshit.
Right.
in the Senate. That's his job. And he's skilled at that. You don't need a rock star in that position. You don't need an intellectual or a policy rock star in that position. You need a workhorse in that position.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Nancy Pelosi, I highly recommend you go and watch that Pelosi documentary that her daughter did, Alexandra Pelosi did, of her mom. And you watch her over decades, over one administration after the other, working the phones, talking to backbenching congressmen. It's got to be so freaking boring to be calling, congressman from California, one of the 45 or 50 congressmen from California.
Yeah,
to make sure their vote is nailed down. And she's got scraps of paper, and she's writing down the votes, and she's making sure she's got her definite yeses and her maybes and her whatever, and she's hammering those that are saying no. And she's on the phone for hours with this.
Yeah,
and
all day, every day.
It would drive me nuts. The phone is work for me.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk on the phone with anybody. But, that's the thing. That's her job. And so Kevin McCarthy is that kind of person. He's on the phone with lobbyists all day long because the Republican Party is a grift. And that's what he wants money coming into the coffers of the Republican Party. That's the other problem with the Republican Party right now is Donald Trump owns WinRed or owns the person who owns WinRed. And he's got the list. And if you don't have access to the donor list, the overarching donor list of the RNC is now off with WinRed. And I said to you last night in bed, Drift Class.
I know.
Right before I fell into a coma.
Pillow talk. It was just
pillow talk. I said the best thing that could happen to the Republican Party would be repealing Citizens United.
Yeah, absolutely it would. If they cared.
All of a sudden, the grifters would drop out.
Mm-hmm.
The best thing that the Republican Party could do is say, everybody, you want to be on the debate stage, 10 years of tax returns, go.
Yeah.
And then you don't get the grifters running. You don't have 16 or 17 people running.
But here's the problem.
Yeah.
The grifters are the party now.
That's the problem, the ratings and the media wants those grifters running because that's ratings.
Right. And so there's no way to say the Republican Party could save itself if this is the Republican Party.
They are a circus. That's what they are. Yes. All right. We got off on a tangent. I didn't mean to do that.
Oh, I love your tangents, honey. They're a beautiful thing.
There are many people out there in Twitterland, Drift Class, who want your reaction to David French being hired by the editorial page of the New York Times. I don't know if you have anything new to say about that.
Oh, he's just a great guy. He's everything I wanted to be when I grew up. He's the guy that Bill Kristol fished out of obscurity at the National Review, America's most respected journal of white supremacy, to run against as a third-party candidate in 2016. Yeah. Just dredged him up out of nowhere, said, yeah, David French he'll save us. Yeah. And the nation, as one, Republicans, Democrats, and Independents, said, David who?
Who?
And because they had no idea who this guy was. He's a right-wing, religious...
Libertarian, right?
Libertarian guy who is basically Michael Gerson's understudy when it comes to pimping evangelical right-wing Christian issues. And he is a frequent guest on the Bulwark. And he works at the National Review. And
so now the New York Times thinks it'll be great to have him on the editorial board.
Well, there is a timeline there. And all the things I wrote about Michael Gerson, the late Michael Gerson, pretty much apply to David French, except in a lower register. Michael Gerson wrote all of his horrible, horrible shit in the Washington Post. Mm-hmm. So when people were celebrating, what an awesome guy he was and how much he loved Jesus and how much Jesus loved him and how sincere he was, I wrote a long, long, long article about here's all the horrible, lying, hiding behind the Bible shit he wrote about Barack Obama and about Democrats back when he thought there was no consequences to any of this.
Yeah.
And then suddenly Trump is running his party, and he's one of those people who said, where did all these crazy evangelicals come from? These aren't the people I knew. Oh, and you look around like, well, okay, over here is a guy named Jerry Falwell, and here's a guy named Pat Robertson, and here's a guy named Paul Weyrich. This is your party. This is your religion. What the fuck are you talking about? But because he has a microphone and because he had a platform, he could just pretend that never happened. That it was completely bumfuzzled and taken completely by surprise by the fact that right-wing Christian evangelicals have been running his party for 30 years. And David French is that guy, except in a slightly lower register. Now, there's a timeline here. In August of 2017, David French was one of several co-authors of what was called the Nashville Statement, which affirmed that, quote, it is sinful to approve of homosexual immorality or transgenderism, and that such approval constitutes an essential departure from Christian faithfulness and witness.
My goodness.
That was not 1917. That was not 1967. That was 2017. He's a right-wing religious asshole. However, he would very much like to have a job outside the right-wing religious asshole area. So in November of 2022, God came down and removed the scales from his eyes. And French announced that he had changed his mind on the legal recognition of same-sex marriage, although he said it was morally opposed to it and it was a horrible thing. But it tracked with his civil libertarian beliefs. And then shortly thereafter, the New York Times said, all right, come on board. We couldn't, there were too many warts on you, too much baggage. I mean, we already got Ross Douthat for that shit. So
yeah, I was going to say.
So
he doesn't, he just fills a slot that Ross Douthat already has, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well, pasty white Republicans, I mean, the New York Times always has a seat for those guys. Yeah. So pasty white Republican men, they got plenty of room for them. Brett Stevens will pick up some of the slack there. David Brooks, who basically has given up writing about anything that doesn't, once a month he drops in a column either hating liberals for letting Trump happen, or as I pointed out once, he had become the faith and humility editor of the Acela Corder Pantograph.
Right.
He discovered Jesus late in life, and he started writing about Moses and the Ten Commandments and a bunch of crazy shit, all of which you'll find in our David Brooks podcast. Yeah. But yeah, David French is just another variation on the same fucking theme. And the New York Times is in the same struggle as the rest of the media, the mainstream media, which is how do we find someone who can write about this stuff who isn't, drooling at the mouth, Steve Bannon crazy. And the best they got are assholes like David French, who is deeply revered and respected by Charlie Sykes and Mona Charen and all the Bulwark guys. He's such a great guy, loves God so much. And, what can you expect? That's what happens with our broken media. Now, shall we talk about enablers, Blue Gal?
Yes, we shall.
First, for the record, because this is a record, let me say for the 1,000th time that the, quote, for the good of democracy, Democrats need to reach across the aisle and yada, yada, yada. Those pundits need to shut up. Now, I know they won't. They never have, and they never will. That's never going to happen. Also, the forward party nitwits who react to every Republican catastrophe with, it's the system, man. It's the system. Need to shut up as well. I know they won't. I know they can't. I know that's their business model. And whatever third-party grift follows after them, after their third-party grift collapses, will use exactly the same ridiculous talking points because all of these people, all of them are enablers. Republicanism is an addiction. Being a Republican is an addiction. And these people are enablers. And an enabler is a person who encourages or enables negative or self-destructive behavior in another. Now, in my neighborhood, when I was growing up, a family I knew had some kids, one of whom grew up to be a violent schizophrenic. A big, scary, dangerous guy who could keep his shit together when he was living on the street, or else they would have killed him, but somehow could never keep it together when he was in his family. He terrorized the neighborhood. He was scary, and he kept coming back to his mom's house. The rest of his family, including the rest of the children, told her, you can't keep letting this guy back in our lives. He destroys everything he touches. And they'd take her and they'd get a restraining order. And then Christmas would come around or Thanksgiving would come around. And suddenly they'd find out he was staying at home again. And it was, why are you doing this? Well, it's Thanksgiving. And and the first thing he would do was like rip the phone out of the wall and start screaming at mom and ripping the house apart and demanding shit. And I witnessed the time when it took 2 or 3 cops to hold him down Well, they dragged his ass off. The only person who could control him was his dad, and that gradually gave way as his dad got older. And the problem with that situation was, no matter how many different ways you told mom, you have to put him away. You have to put him out of your life. He's never going to change. He's only getting worse. And one day he's going to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
She couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Well, he's my son. Well, you don't understand. You don't have kids of your own. You don't understand. I have to. And no matter how hard everyone tried to protect her from him, she just kept bringing him back into her life.
Mm-hmm.
That's enabling.
Yep.
That's what it means to enable someone. Now, here's an example of an enabler in action that you might have forgotten. The January 6th Republican attack on the Capitol actually managed to scare the crap out of the Republican leadership for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And in secretly recorded comments made at the time, they said a whole lot of things they later lied about, pretended they never said. But my favorite quote is from Mitch McConnell, who said, "If this isn't impeachable, I don't know what is." And then he said, "The Democrats are going to take care of the son of a bitch for us."
Yep.
That's enabling.
Mm-hmm.
The attitude is baked into our politics and media that this is why our politics and media are broken. The acceptance that, well, of course the Republican Party is a mob of bigots and imbeciles and saboteurs. Everybody knows that. Nothing can change that. There's nothing to be done about it. That's just how things are. And just as it assumes that it will always and forever be the job of Democrats to roll up their sleeves and try to fix whatever Republicans have broken this time. No matter how much we shit on the Democrats or mock them or enable Republican madmen as they try to obstruct whatever Democrats are trying to do, it's the Democrats' job to step up and save the Republican Party, because nothing can be done about the fact the Republican Party is just a shit show. No, we're not responsible for it. We can't do anything about it. It's just a fact of nature, like a hurricane. And this is a big reason why Hillary lost in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone felt safe knowing that Hillary was going to get elected and knowing that she would spare them from the unimaginable insanity of an actual Trump presidency. They felt perfectly safe shitting all over her. Email. Everything about her, everything about the election was both sides. Every column written was how bad she was, how worse she was. Maybe Trump is to the left of her and a bunch of stuff. And the whole media just said, well, she's a piñata. Just beat on her all day long and collect the prizes because she'll win. And then we'll be set up to beat up on her some more for the next 4 years. But it's the Democrats' job to sacrifice themselves for Republican insanity over and over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think it's time to stop doing that. That's why I'm thrilled that Jeffrey says, no, this is your party. You fucked it up. You fix it. I say to the Never Trumpers, hey, assholes, you built this. It's not our job to make our tent even bigger so that you feel comfy and cozy and we give you the keys to the kingdom. It's your job to shut up, admit you made a goddamn mistake, that you wasted your life, that you supported Nazis for 30 years, ask for our forgiveness, and step to the back of the fucking line and row. Get in the boat and take an oar and row with the rest of us who've been right all along.
Mm-hmm.
That's how things should be. Now, I know that they won't be that way. They'll never be that way because it is impossible for the centrists and the Never Trumpers and the media to admit how fucking wrong they've been their entire lives. They can't do it.
Well, and there's a contingent of 30 million Americans or 39 million Americans whose identity is wrapped up in white supremacy.
Yeah.
Who are violent and armed, many of them. And holding that together in the background is part of the problem.
Well, and I was going back and forth with someone yesterday about, I know that Democrats think that this is a Republican problem, but America would like them to step across the aisle and really work. And I'm like, wait a minute. Democrats are Americans.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm an American. I don't want them to do it. Who are these other? And the Republican Party are Americans too. They're the ones causing the fucking problem. So who's this imaginary third group that are called Americans that are watching all this going, tisk, 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 if only these two parties could get along? And the answer is it's all fucking imaginary. It's all in their brains. It's all, it's all this playing to a non-existent third party, reasonable, centrist, independent audience that does not exist. What exists are people who are too cowardly or too stupid or have a grift going so deep that they can't admit that one party is the problem.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you, Andrew Yang. Anyway.
Yeah. I want to talk for a minute about podcasting,
Ooh.
which we do full-time, Driftglass.
Yeah.
We now do this as a full-time job.
Been at this a while.
Donald Trump Jr. just signed $1 million, a 7-figure deal, multi-million, I guess, deal with Rumble to do 2 shows a week for them.
Shit, we were on the wrong platform,
podcast.
Blue Gal. What? Let's get on Rumble. Apparently.
But Driftglass, we don't have the audience that Don Jr. does, where he can go on Rumble, which bills itself as a YouTube alternative that is immune from cancel culture. And he is now. Huh?
I'm sorry.
What?
I'm watching Kevin McCarthy get his balls cut off on the floor of Congress and going, really, the Republicans are immune from cancel culture?
Yeah, who's canceling? Well, and you and I talk about this, that if the shoe was on the other foot, this would be all about how the squad is destroying the Congress.
They're out of control, Blue Gal. They're out of control.
They're domestic terrorists. They're just destroying the Congress. How dare they? This is about America, and you aren't getting that from the squad, the right-wing squad that is ruining the Congress.
Mm-hmm.
And no, you just got to let them do it. Just keep digging that hole. Anyway, Donald Trump Jr. is selling We the People Bibles.
Oh, God.
On Rumble. And again, this goes back to white nationalism, Christian nationalism, what I consider the most dangerous movement in America these days. This armed, totally grievance party, full grievance, that somehow whiteness and Christianity are the same thing, and that the founding fathers were ordained by God to create the United States, when most of them were agnostic at best.
Yeah, deists, if you will.
Deists, Thomas Jefferson cut all the miracles out of the Bible.
There were some Masons in there, too.
There were some Masons in there, for gosh sakes.
Mm-hmm.
And I could whine about Don Jr. making money off of Rumble. And he doesn't edit his show.
No.
He goes and plops himself in front of a webcam and spouts off. He doesn't read articles to prepare for this. He just looks at whatever is going on America News Now, One American News, and screams about it.
That's not quite true. It is widely rumored that he does sit down about an hour before every show and do a huge amount of cocaine.
Oh, well, that's different. Yeah, that's prep.
Okay. That's prep.
I want to know if he can does he write that off like his dad writes off the porn star payoffs?
It wouldn't surprise me. I'm sure there's an LLC out there somewhere.
LLC out there buying his cocaine?
White Powder Co., yeah.
But on the topic of podcasting and money and so forth, Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, they're known as FAIR, our watchdog group, and they have a post up that just curled my hair. Most of our listeners, I'm sure, know that 90% of televised media is owned by 6 companies. News Corp, which is the Murdochs and Fox, Disney, Comcast, CBS, Time Warner, and Viacom own 90% of what you watch, the movies you see.
Mm-hmm. Everything.
Well, this article in FAIR talks about this company called Liberty Media. And Liberty Media owns the satellite radio SiriusXM, internet radio Pandora, podcast platform and network Stitcher. FAIR talks about this in terms of a Russian nesting doll, which, a lot of companies do this. This is the Donald Trump thing, starting LLCs all over the place.
Right.
But in the podcast world, what's happening is Earwolf is owned by Stitcher, which is owned by Pandora, which is owned by Sirius, which is owned by Liberty Media. And no outlet talks about Liberty Media, the parent company, because the publicists who answer the phone when a reporter calls to ask about podcasting, they all work for the child companies. So you'll call and talk to somebody at Stitcher, or you'll talk to somebody at Earwolf, but they all work for Liberty. And then they go into SXM Media, which is an advertising group for Sirius, sign deals with NBC, MSNBC, CNBC, SoundCloud, AudioChuck early on. They've since signed with Spanish language Revolver Podcasts and Crooked Media, the home of Pod Save America.
Uh-huh.
In February of 2020, SiriusXM made a $75 million minority equity investment into SoundCloud, which plays ads. This is all just battling over millions and millions of listeners.
Right. That's right.
Sirius also bought Conan O'Brien's Team Coco podcast network. And so there's just this conglomeration of who owns these shows. And it's turning out to be 2 or 3 companies.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want you to know we aren't owned by anybody. We're 2 people in the cornfield.
That's we
and
still
we
are.
depend on you. We get letters back from people who have written to us. And within, 30 minutes or so, I've written them back and say, oh, that's a really good idea. Thanks. I appreciate it. And so from the, oh my God, Blue Gal wrote me back. We read all your emails.
We do.
Driftglass and I read all your emails.
Yeah, I personally suck at correspondence, and I apologize. And I've
Well,
apologized.
Driftglass always feels like he needs to write back as Driftglass. And
Yes.
that means he's got to put his writer's hat on.
I have to compose something. Well, and another thing that I've noticed, because I do listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm listening to a very nice one my sister recommended to me called The Plot Thickens.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you were telling me about that one.
TCM, to do a whole season on one person or one thing or what item. This season is Pam Grier, and it's awesome.
Oh, yeah. It's really interesting. Yeah.
I'm
not saying that the quality and content of these shows is bad. I'm not saying that.
No.
I'm just concerned that when you wind up with 3 or 4 companies owning everything, that there's control there, there's strings there, and it winds up being a problem.
Well, and there's also this is not represented in the statistics, 'cause I don't know how you track it, but there's also all the podcasts I listen to. Most of them are part of a network, an iHeart network or whatever. They're part of a network. And
if you and I won the lottery, I'd want to start a network of blogs, and
I would too. I think it'd be great. I think there's a bunch of hugely underrepresented, talented people out there,
right?
And I think that'd be great. The problem is that it this reminds me of blogger. What was it? Blog-roll Amnesty Day.
Blog-roll Amnesty Day.
Yeah, where the A-listers all just cut everybody who wasn't one of them out of their blog rolls and said, for us, by us. Now,
right.
We're the ones we are the liberal. Us 6 people are the liberal blogosphere, and everyone else can go, bite my ass.
Yeah.
There is, I've noticed, and I understand this, but it does mean if you're a small independent, you're just kind of getting squeezed out little by little.
Yeah.
That networks only refer to inter-network publications and printings.
Exactly.
They only refer to their own writers, their own authors, their own articles. They only refer to their own fellow podcasts. That's all. If you're not a member of that group, you do not exist. And if you're primary, like my mom thought AOL was the internet.
Yeah.
And it took us a number of years to sort of wean her off the theory that AOL is not the internet. It is a service. It is one thing. The internet's much bigger. But if all you see or hear is inside this podcast network or that podcast network, you're never going to leave it. It's the Fox News model.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. You don't need to go out here because we have a writer who's at The Atlantic who's writing an article who's also part of our network. So go read his article at The Atlantic. Well, there's 20 other articles out there, and there's a whole bunch of good bloggers out there who write better than this guy does, but you're never going to hear about him.
Well, this is why Ann Coulter was on Mrs. Greenspan's show, because Comcast published Ann Coulter's books. You are compromising integrity over and over again for money, for shareholder money. I think we need to go to a news roundup.
I think that's an excellent idea. House Republicans, despite being in the majority, were unable to elect a speaker again as Kevin McCarthy lost his 4th, 5th, and 6th bids again for the gavel. Actually,
Isn't he
today,
at 8
I
now?
believe. What?
Isn't he at 8 now?
I think he's at 9. I'm looking over my shoulder. I mean, this is hot off the presses news. This is not, timely, eternal stuff. This is right off the presses. I believe
Driftglass has the TV on while we're podcasting to make sure.
I look over my shoulder to see if anything's exploded or anyone's gotten elected or something, or if I've won the lottery, in which case you'll hear me hang up immediately. Play the lottery. No, but you'll hear me hang up immediately, and that'll be the last you hear of me. But none of that happened. Just Kevin McCarthy is losing and losing. He's the biggest loser. Day after day, he's a loser. He lost the first 3 votes for speaker. Trump urged Republicans to vote for McCarthy, warning them to, and you imagine this in all caps, not turn a great triumph into a giant and embarrassing defeat. That's Trump's job because, don't steal his job. Biden, meanwhile, called the House of Representatives' inability to elect a speaker embarrassing, saying it's, quote, not a good look for the country, but also, quote, not my problem.
Yeah, meanwhile, Joe Biden was busy presidenting down in Kentucky, and I had mixed feelings about this.
Mm-hmm.
Getting a vital bridge between Ohio and Kentucky rebuilt while flanked by Mitch McConnell, Ohio Republican Governor Mike DeWine, and former Republican Senator Rob Portman. But, and here's the point, he was also flanked by Democratic Kentucky Governor Andy Bashar, and most importantly, Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown of Ohio, who is up for re-election in 2 years.
Yes.
In case you don't know how politics works, this was Joe Biden lobbing a political grenade into the middle of the House Republican caucus. It was also lobbying a big boost to the Sherrod Brown campaign.
Oh, yeah. No, this is, he's good at this.
Yes, he is good at this.
I do not approve of your methods all the time, sir, but he's good at this. And
it's our job to remember all of the things that Mitch McConnell did.
Exactly. And it's our job to hold him hostage and never let him pass anything and not to the speaker if he doesn't give us every goddamn thing we want. No, it's putting, shaking Mitch McConnell's hand and saying, Mitch McConnell and I don't agree on anything, but I know he's a man of his word and I know want to do this. That isn't aimed at me.
No, it's not aimed at us.
No,
exactly.
That's aimed at the MAGA base.
Right.
Who hate McConnell already. And watch trying to govern between McConnell and McCarthy or whoever is going to be speaker is going to be bad enough. But the fact that McConnell now has Biden's stank all Biden's socialist stink all over him now is just
in order to get a bridge fix that really needs fixing.
Yes.
And this is a bipartisan infrastructure bill. By the way, let's remind everybody that Infrastructure Week was every week in the Trump White House.
Uh-huh.
And he didn't get it done. And even with Mitch McConnell there.
Let's all remember who voted against this.
Yes.
All those people that are now holding giant checks going, I brought this back to the district. It was hard doing it. It was tough. I'm a Republican. I voted against it, called Joe Biden a communist, but I got the money, so vote for me.
Here's the money. Vote for me. Right.
New York Representative-elect Republican George Santos, who admitted to making up his resume, is set to be sworn in as a member of the House, has Brazilian authorities saying they plan to reopen a 15-year-old fraud charge against him now that they know where he is.
House Republicans, meanwhile, plan to limit the Ethics Committee's office ability to investigate lawmakers.
And finally, the notorious Cardinal Ratzinger, who was also briefly known as Pope Benedict XVI, has died.
Each week, we post to our Facebook page and website an Internet Kitty sent in by you, the listeners. This week's Internet Kitty is Murphy. Murphy is a stretched-out tuxedo kitty. He likes to stretch. He has a lot of personality and his own water fountain because he likes freshly poured water. Not only freshly poured cat food, but of course, Murphy eats freshly poured cat food, our fake sponsor. Whether you serve Pet Store Perfection or Dollar Store Direct, your cats will sit on the kitchen floor and demand that the food they eat is only freshly poured. Freshly poured, freshly poured. Oh, my Lord, it's freshly poured. And you can visit Murphy Stretching Out on our Facebook page or website. And you can send your Internet Kitty, dog, or other pets to us at our email address, proleftpodcast@gmail.com. And please do that. Put Internet Kitty in the subject line, regardless of what kind of pet you're sending us. That is how I find it in my email, which has like 17,000 emails in it. I'm not an inbox zero kind of person. You write to us at proleftpodcast@gmail.com and feel free to write us. We love hearing from you. We do read your emails. Both of us read your emails. Be aware that if you write us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service. Go, Postal, Unions. Letter on the air unless you say otherwise. Fire to joy. Don't forget our gourmet coffee guideline. If you can afford to buy an espresso-based beverage for yourself, buy one for us. This is not charity. This is our job, our full-time job. And we don't get paid by iHeartRadio or any other network We get paid by you, and we appreciate it so, so much. Many of our listeners support this podcast with a contribution, and you can too. See our website, proleftpod.com, for details. We have PayPal, Patreon. Our postal address, if you want to mail us a letter or a check, is there at proleftpod.com. Please share our show on social media. And if you love this podcast, please get someone else to listen to. And thank you for doing that. Hey, Driftglass, how are the Internet Kitties doing this week?
Well, Blue Gal, after 3 days of voting, the Internet Kitties are still deadlocked over who gets to sit next to the space heater.
Let's think about living. Think about living. Let's think about loving. Think about loving. Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the popping and the lovey-dovey. Let's forget about the wine and the crying, the shooting and the dying, and the fellow with a switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
The Professional Left podcast is recorded under a Creative Commons license. Copyright 2023 DGBG Productions.